Good morning. I'm Piotr Grodzinski from National Cancer Institute, and I will share with you our perspective of the operating of NCI Alliance for Nanotechnology in Cancer over the last 15 years. From this slide, NIH was relatively slow at the very beginning of funding nanotechnologies under the umbrella of NNI. 20 years ago, the major contributors were DOD and NSF. And that was natural because we were waiting for maturation of some of the nanomaterials and nanodevices before we start using them and applying them to medical application. As a result, by end of these 20 years today, NIH is actually holding a largest portion of the NNI budget. We started the nanotechnology or Alliance for Nanotechnology in Cancer program in year 2005, so it's about 15 years since then. And NCI invested almost $400 million into this activity. The idea was to bring people working in different disciplines from physical sciences, engineering, chemistry, to cancer biology and oncology to see what are the opportunities on one hand for fundamental understanding of interaction between nanomaterials and nanodevices and biological systems. On the other hand, discerning which of those nanomaterials and nanodevices can play a practical role in the development of new cancer therapies or diagnostics. The program was designed as shown in this slide. At the center stage, we had Centers for Cancer Nanotechnology Excellence, or CCNEs, which were multidisciplinary academic centers. And depending on the phase of the program, since everything at NIH occurs on 5-year intervals, we already operated 3 rounds of this program. We had 6 to 9 CCNEs, and the CCNE component of the Alliance program has terminated in summer of this year, but research is being continued under the umbrella of different initiatives, innovative research in cancer nanotechnology, which are smaller R01 grants, translational components. We also have a multidisciplinary training activity center, and last but not the least, nanotechnology characterization lab, which performs hands-on characterization of nanomaterials and devices. What I think is interesting when we look at melding of collaborations and interactions of different researchers involved in this program, essentially 2 communities, one which was more technologically inclined and the other one which was hailing from cancer biology and oncology, started to gradually publish away from their initial area of expertise. And that's depicted in this slide when red represents more nanotechnology-centric publications, which talk about devices and nanomaterials per se, and blue, the use of these devices in biomedical applications. And you see that the community, which was initially heavily involved in technology only, which is publishing in red space, gradually developed also a blue component. And similarly, people who are coming more from cancer biology angle started to publish in technological applications as well, which indicated basically conversions of their interest. Many academics who are involved and funded by this program started small companies or worked with large existing companies. And that created a clever pipeline to bring technologies from early demonstration and early development in academia to the translational stage and commercial stage in the companies. Many of these companies were very small, but some of them reached mid-size and have been involved in clinical trials, moving the technology forward. But it was also interesting to watch and very encouraging to see during the days of tight government funding is that researchers who received our NCI funding were able to use that as a seed to build upon and bring more and more funds from different sources, whether these were different government agencies or philanthropy or venture capital, to expand the range of research they could perform and also bring it to a more mature translational stage. This graph shows the funding evolution for 4 CCNEs, which were funded in all 3 phases of our program. These are Stanford, Caltech, UCLA, Northwestern, and the University of North Carolina. You see that NCI provided about $160 million over 15 years to these institutions. But if you watch the blue curve, that was funding which they raised through additional sources in forms of grants, and the red curve through private industry and venture capital to support the translation and commercialization. So you see that the seed investment from NCI was multiplied by 8 or 9 times when you count all money which resulted as a final outcome of initial work in CCNEs. CCNEs have been, their operation was stopped in summer 2020, I'm sorry. And that occurred because the 3 rounds of this funding ended, and it's a natural transition within NCI or NIH in general that programs which fund directly specific area of research usually last 10 years, at some rare cases 15 years, as in the case of nanotechnology, and eventually start raising money through more traditional standard funding mechanisms within NIH. Ending CCNEs resulted in reactions in the press. There were initial articles in Science and other publications. We wrote our contribution to express our perspective, which essentially said that this usual transition for dedicated programs within NCI and NIH, and community largely accepted that and is currently relying on other methods of funding from NCI, and some of them are nanotechnology centric. But I think it's important that interest in nanotechnology among NCI grantees has been growing quite rapidly in the last several years. You see here that number of R1 applications, and R1 is a workhorse for funding within NIH, changed from about 200 in 2008 to over 700 applications 10 years later, which really shows a growing and strong interest in that space of research among current and new NCI grant applicants. As I said, we also operate Nanotechnology Characterization Lab, or NCL, in Frederick, and they have developed a very comprehensive assay cascade for characterization of nanomaterials, and that contributes to standardization of materials characterization. These assays are being available to the entire research community. So just to close, what we view as a major outcomes of this program, and the program still continues, but these are like a 15-year summary or review. We definitely were successful in bringing together researchers from different disciplines and stimulate innovation in cancer research and oncology. And this program became a meaningful contributor or early contributor to the continuing convergence in biomedical sciences. It has been highly productive from the standpoint of impactful research and publication. It also established a viable model of effective clinical translation from maturing academic research to startup companies where students who are working on initial development of technology at the university often moved with the technology to startup companies and continued the maturation of these technologies over there. It was a program was very effective in leveraging initial NCI investment by bringing large amounts of funding from other sources. It provided very strong training environment for students and young faculty who are interested in working in multidisciplinary environment. Finally, sparked strong interest in nanotechnology among current and future NCI grant applicants, and that's shown by rapidly growing number of nanotechnology-based R1 applications. Thank you for your attention.